bring us in.
Who, me?
Hello, you. Hello, both of you. We're on.
So what is?
Well, hello and welcome.
So what is the show called?
I have no idea.
One Square at a Time.
Welcome to One Square at a Time.
Who are you?
My name is Sera Nelson. This is my fiance, Brandon Croucher, also CEO of Delight Cafe. And this is the incomparable Brett Gordon.
From Businesses Are People Too.
I didn't know if he wanted to introduce himself from Businesses Are People Too.
That is who I am, and that is what I do.
So we're a little all jazzed up today. I think we all put on black. They made me change my clothes to our audience that is going to be listening to this. Sera made me change my clothes, and because her and Brett get along so well, I had to do it because it seemed like Brett was about to get on a plane and come beat my ass.
Well, this we didn't plan.
Well,
and
we're kind of in Joe mode here.
Yes.
That's true.
Joe
That's
had
true.
a black shirt on, especially like at the beginning of the movie when he found out that he was going to finally get the gig that he's been looking for the whole time. So I felt, what the heck, I'll wear the black shirt again, and in honor of Joe.
I love it. I love it.
I don't think you can come out of this movie and not feel a little jazzy.
Yeah,
That's
and
right.
we got
That's
going.
right. In fact, I'm sure we're going to be doing a little jazz hands too.
I almost wore the shoes, but I figured that they'd be wasted on this crowd.
Exactly. So
I even told Brandon, I'm wearing the mole fit. It's like business up top and sweatpants on the bottom.
There you go. Well, at least you're wearing pants. That's good.
Okay. I don't want to know.
So we actually are doing Disney's movie Soul this week. It's apparently my pants are ripping. So it's a
hey, just like Joe.
Yes.
Perfectly well played. Love it. So, but we watched Soul, and this was a movie that had a lot of uniqueness that was new for not just people, but for adults and kids. This had the feel of a kid movie by being a cartoon, but it really wasn't, in my opinion. Brett, what were your thoughts? Because this was the first time you've seen it, and if I let Sera go first, that might be the whole podcast.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, when Sera suggested watching it, I was like, okay, I kind of had seen the picture of it when I was going through my Disney Channel, and I was like, okay, so I'll check it out. And to be perfectly honest, the first few times, like almost any movie I watch, I end up falling asleep. Then when I finally get into it, I'm like, holy cow, this is not what I expected. No, I fall asleep at rock concerts, literally.
Seriously?
Yeah, the very first concert that I went to was, I'm going to date myself here, Boston Live, 1978. And they're playing, and I'm just kind of chilling out, and pretty soon I'm falling asleep while they're playing. It doesn't matter. I do that. I've fallen asleep standing up.
What?
Yes.
How do you fall asleep standing
I am
up?
both jealous and amazed all at the same time. You got to see Boston and you fell asleep.
You two might be soulmates. When I go to Vegas for the award ceremony, do you want my prize?
I'll crash in your sofa. What movies do you want to watch?
We would get along really well. So back to the movie. I'll get us all distracted.
So,
I know.
So I'm watching it, and I'm like, wow, this movie is really deep. And there's a ton of meaning behind it. And then as I did additional research afterwards, which I normally do, I was like, wow, they did take this whole thing on, they did it intentionally. It's obvious they did it intentionally, but they were trying to bring out, what is the kind of the meaning in life? What is our meaning in life? Mm-hmm. And how are there potential things that go on when we are living life, and sometimes when we lose ourselves in life?
Mm-hmm.
And this movie really brings all of that out. And I was impressed with the way that it did it. and it was entertaining. So even kids would like to watch it, but the chances of them necessarily getting all the meaning out of it are slim. I didn't get all the meaning out of it until I watched it like 3 times and did some research. It's just so much going on really in the movie. And when we've got these two characters, which are the primary characters of Joe when he's in his soul mode, if you want to call it that, he for anybody who hasn't seen it, there's going to be some spoiler alerts, just like just about any other movie that we've reviewed.
I think we need to just make that in the beginning.
Yeah.
When we actually make our actual editing beginning, we're just gonna get you will
Warning,
have spoilers.
Spoilers coming right now.
Yeah, or go watch the movie first. Either way is great, because really, one way or the other, they're going to want to watch the movie again.
Correct.
But Joe is going through life. He's having challenges, right? And
he's your basic average Joe.
Well, he's your average Joe, but he's got this massive passion for his music, for his jazz, and that's all he really wants to be. But he's sitting as a teacher in school because he hasn't figured out how to make a living playing jazz. Mm-hmm. So Joe gets a call from one of his prior students, and this is interesting because I got a buddy of mine who was like a ROTC instructor for a lot of years after retiring from the Air Force. And he's had these students call him afterwards, thanking him and trying to, recognize him or, essentially repay him for what he's done for their lives. And Joe had the same thing happen to him in the movie, whereas one of his students calls him up and says, "Hey, we got this opportunity to play in this quartet with this really famous saxophone player." And Joe is so excited about that. He's on the phone. He's walking down the street. He's not paying attention to the cars. And these cars are missing him. And the next thing you know, he falls out of the picture. He fell through a manhole. Boom. Basically dead. And his soul rises, and he's on his way to the great beyond, which would be like going to heaven. But he's like, no, I'm not ready to go to heaven. I haven't fulfilled what I want to do in life. So he's fighting back, and he ends up getting himself into what amounts to the in between life and death, mm-hmm. which in this case was also called the great before. And that's where young souls get personalities and get their quirks and things, because babies, if anybody's seen babies, a lot of babies, a few babies, I haven't had any babies, so I can't tell you firsthand from having them, but each baby has their own personality when they're born. And this movie is also saying, where did that come from? Where in real life is this coming from, that babies have a personality before they're even born? So this is what's kind of going on here. And Joe ends up being kind of a mentor for these souls before they go to Earth and are born with a baby. So then, the movie continues to progress, but let's take it from there and see what your thoughts are. Brandon, Sarah?
Well, what's cool is absolutely not only how Joe is not only how cool Joe is represented, but also the soul that he's paired with. So they definitely do a great job at really painting a beautiful picture of Joe and his whole community, like who he is as a person, the full and rich life that he leads, not just his job. Previously, I think the only other Black characters that we've seen in the Disney Corporation as a whole, though this is Pixar's first film with a Black protagonist, was a princess. It sort of was more like a notch in their belt to say, okay, we've done a Black princess. You can say that you see someone that looks like you, and that in and of itself was an achievement. But there was not necessarily anyone else that was like part of the production team that like brought that to fruition. And she spent most of her time as a frog. This was a true Black protagonist with like a mom, and you like saw his full with Felicia Rashad of all people. Mrs. Cosby voiced his mom, so that's a voice that I think we can all like tune into. So when you say I split my pants earlier, that brought an image. That whole scene with his mom that is just, I mean, and they put so much work into trying to make sure that his life was really brought to fruition. Questlove voiced the voice of his student. Just so many fabulous voices that they could have cast anyone, and they went to such great efforts. Jamie Foxx as actually being Joe, Angela Bassett as what was the lead musician's name, the female singer?
Dorothea.
Thank you, Dorothea. There's just so many fabulous voices, and all the way down to John Baptiste, who a lot of people know from Stephen Colbert, was behind every key that Joe played. All the jazz compositions were all him. They wanted it to be a real jazz player. And John Baptiste, if you've ever seen him on that show, his every word out of that man's mouth is pure jazz. And you were saying yourself before that, the reason that this may have felt a little bit like Inside Out is because the direction was the same. It also has a strong co-director and co-writer in a man named Kemp Powers, who I definitely was digging into today. This man just interests me to no end, because you can also find his words leaping off the page if you have seen One Night in Miami, which we saw recently and absolutely loved. It's up for 1 million awards this season. And if you haven't seen it, you should absolutely go see it. It's literally One Night in Miami with their portrayal of just 4 extremely powerful men in the 60s. Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Brown's player, Jim Brown, and who am I forgetting?
Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, Jim Brown, and he was a musician. That's why we were supposed to remember it. It was like
Sam Cooke, I want to say. Thank you. And just this one night that literally, it was the night that that Cassius Clay literally became Muhammad Ali and wound up coming out and announcing that he was a Muslim. And it's all those back conversations and the night that they were in this motel and you see the segregation, and that's an entirely different thing. But just seeing how those words jump off the page, you see the effort that was put in to just making this community leap off the page. As surely as you see the struggle of this soul, this number 22, who was partnered with everybody from Mother Teresa to Albert Einstein, and literally says, yeah, sure, whatever, go away. And it's Joe's actual showing of like, this is life. You can eat pizza. You can watch daisies fall off trees. And these are the moments that at the end of the day wind up making 22 find his or her, their spark is in the everyday, not necessarily in that thing that frankly we're all chasing. We all want to be Plan A people. And I frankly think the barber says it best, Des, where he says that he started out wanting to be a veterinarian, and as much as, number 22 as Joe says, oh, well, sorry, dude, that you never got to do what you wanted to do. You can have the little fish story. That you
Nemo?
Yeah, you get to talk about Nemo. That sometimes plan B can be better, you know?
Well, yeah, exactly. And you know what this whole movie is about is actually kind of going from one dimension to another, back and forth. You
Yeah.
start off with Joe on Earth, Joe up in heaven, essentially, then comes back down to Earth and goes back up. And you throughout that you get an opportunity to see more of Joe's life on Earth and how people in general oftentimes look at life. Like in this picture here, you know, this is really not, this is 22 in Joe's body with one of Joe's students who comes to quit playing the trombone because they just they're frustrated. They're frustrated essentially. But then when they sit down and she's like, yeah, but can you listen to this? Because I tried this. And then she starts playing and she gets into the music again. And you come to find out that, yeah, she wanted to quit, but it was for really all the wrong reasons. And then she really loves what she was doing. It was really becoming a passion of hers. And then she decides to stay with it. And this is all about this movie. And the same thing goes, like, you know, and they picked these scenes out specifically, like in the barbershop. It was a very profound scene in how the barber does say that, you know, he wanted to be a veterinarian, but then life got in the way. He had having kids, he had to make a living, he becomes a barber. And then 22 in Joe's body basically is saying, well, too bad for you, like you said. And he's like, no, not at all. This has been actually great. I love being a barber. I get an opportunity to hear about everybody's life. I get an opportunity to contribute to everybody's life. This is now, you know, this is essentially, it was kind of a godsend, if you want to say it. It's an opportunity that oftentimes life gets in the way of what we think we want to be. And we end up doing something that is greater than what we were going to do possibly before.
I agree.
And that's, I think, one of the great things about this movie. Then, you know, you were talking about Joe's mother, and Joe did not have the relationship with his mother that he perceived he had, because Joe wanted to do jazz. Well, Joe's dad did jazz, but he couldn't really support the family. His mother actually supported the family while his dad followed his passion. And his mom basically kind of said, you can't make a living. She knew how hard it was for her to support the family and support Joe's father in his desire to do what his passion was, but basically telling Joe, hey, you know, you can't survive as a musician. You need to have a profession. And as Joe really demonstrated to her his real desire to play music, she finally really recognizes it the same way I think she did with her husband. And that was, all right, you know, here's your dad's suit. Let's make this suit fit you, and you go do what your passion really is, and have her support, which was a huge thing for Joe. And it's another one of those things in life where oftentimes we feel that, you know, somebody is pushing us in a direction that may not be the direction that we want to follow. But if we really demonstrate that that's where we want to go, oftentimes they'll be like, really what they were was a test. A test of how strong your desire is, how strong your commitment is to doing what you want to do, as opposed to what you should do, or what society thinks you should do, or what's going to make you the money. Hell, when I was in high school, I had decided I was going to go to college to become a doctor. And my mother loved that. And I go to school, and after 2.5 years, I decided I didn't like blood. I didn't like needles. Being a doctor wasn't really what I should be doing. And
You found that out when you went to college?
Pre-med.
No, I get it. Hold on. You found out you didn't like blood and needles by the time you got to college?
Went
Maybe it
halfway
wasn't-
through
Halfway. Okay.
bio pre-med. Yeah.
You never saw somebody like break their arm in high school or anything and be like, oh, I can't do it. Bleh.
No, well, I have felt that way before that. Yes. But I
Were
was
you like
okay,
playing with
overcome
needles in
that,
high
but-
school?
Yeah.
But what really got me is I was looking at a nursing magazine because our school had a really great nursing program as well. And I saw this person on dialysis with this big cannula or whatever in the arm, as they're draining the blood out and filtering it and so forth. And I just looked at it and I was like,
Mhm.
no. I mean, I remember my biology teacher, our school was known for putting people into med school. So we'd start out with 400 people in the class and in biology pre-med. And by the fourth year, it was usually down to less than 50. And those would be able to, were qualified to go to medical school. So I walk in his office to tell him I want to change. And he sits back in his chair like, all right, just another one that couldn't make it through our program. And I was like, that's how I felt. And that's how he acted. And I was like, fuck you. And the last semester of college, I went and took his class, his Pride and Joy, and I came away from that. In fact, I knew what my grade was, but at the end of the class, I went into his office and I was like, how did I do? And he's like, you got a solid B. And that was what his Pride students had. And I just kind of sat back and was like, it wasn't because I didn't want to do it or I couldn't do it. It was because I chose not to do it. And that's what you have to do in life oftentimes. There are challenges that we have throughout our lives. We change direction, and that is good because we talked about it in the last episode, forever for now. I want to do this right now for the rest of my life. And then you're like, holy shit, no, I don't. Right. I want to do something else. And when I went in the Air Force, I went in the Air Force because I wanted to go in the Air Force. I had to fly because they had a quota to make you fly. Well, when I started flying, I didn't want to fly. I found a way to get out of flying without getting kicked out of the Air Force. But that was the passion to stay in and do something for the country, but not to do flying, which would have made me miserable for the entire time I was in. And they put me into logistics, which I loved. So again, a direction that ends up kind of matching what you really end up finding your passion for, that you had no idea was a passion before that time. And this whole movie is really about that. And it also talks about being a lost soul, which I think is really, really important to bring out as we're talking here, because oftentimes passion is good, and passion to do things and be in flow. I talk about being in flow a lot. That's amazing. It's an amazing feeling, but sometimes you can get so caught up in your passion that you lose your grounding. You lose your sense of reality around you. You are so focused on that.
And funny enough, the lost souls are helped out by people that are also finding themselves, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. And here in this picture, oops, I always do this. In this picture, you can kind of see the soul within the lost soul. Your soul is still there, but you've built this shell around you. Throughout life, a lot of people experience being bullied or being called names, or their parents saying you're not good enough, or the people around them saying you're not good enough. And that's what happens to 22 actually. 22 is in the great before for thousands of years. And she thinks she knows it all, but even those mentors that she had told her, you just don't get it. You're not going to ever find your spark. You're not going to be able to do this. And when Joe basically tells her, no, you didn't find your spark. You just lived in my shoes and were following my spark. You didn't get yours. And then she started going back in her brain and picking out all these negative things that she's heard throughout her thousands of years up there, and just built that up. And that created her becoming a lost soul, losing her real meaning and taking on what others have said about you.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that happens to people all the time in life. And it's not because necessarily the people are trying to put you down. Oftentimes, what they're trying to do is help you so that you don't experience what they experienced. But the way that they say it, you perceive as being very negative. And oftentimes, the way that they say it is negative. They don't create an empowering view to move toward. They try to create a disempowering or negative view so that you're afraid to go there.
Mhm.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it also seemed like a lot of the fear that surrounded specifically what 22 was going through was also just the feeling that that 22 had to have everything figured out the same way that Joe seemed to have everything figured out before he or she ever even jumped into the Earth portal. Like, I have to know that I'm going to be Albert Einstein, or I have to know that I'm going to be a saint to all people, or I have to know that I'm going to be a jazz musician before I have to have it all figured out. I must be a plan A person before I jump through the portal. And the fact is that that's why so many people claim undecided when they go to college. Should we all go to college? A lot of people would say no. I'm a believer for yes. But that's because I believe that all of us should go to camp to work out of our monkeys and learn how to be adults in a safe environment more than anything else. But frankly, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to have any kind of plan in life. You just need to find some way to pay the bills at the end of the day. And the rest of it, is chump change. And at the end of the day, that's what 22 figures out. And that's why he puts the leaf, Joe puts the leaf in his hand, because ultimately when he is able to come to terms with everything that happened with his mother and have that moment of enlightenment, he is able to appreciate those little joys. And it's sort of a mutual gift that 22 and Joe are able to give each other, that Joe was able to almost find that peace for himself and earn that second chance at life. And 22 is able to sort of take a chill and realize that they don't have to have everything figured out before they take that leap, and are able to take that leap together, which was a really cool moment to experience too.
Yeah, it was, and I think that the whole movie really kind of led you to think about the spark as being your reason for being, your purpose in life, your mission. And what it really turns out to be is, no, it's not. Actually, your spark is your ability to live life on a daily basis, to appreciate the little things in life and recognize that it's the little things in life that you do that build up to be essentially what I call your legacy. Those little things that you can help others with. And they don't have to be major things. They could be just simple words, because oftentimes as we're growing up and even as adults, when we hear just a couple of words from the right person in the right way, it sticks with us. And that can be positive or it can be negative. And it's our choice to figure out how to do that. And then also to take enough of a concern that you actually kind of do a little bit of research on how you present things. Now, we don't, is in a general population, spend the time to do that. Some people say, well, you learn that in church. Some people say you learn that in philosophy class. Some people say that you learn that through Tony Robbins or whatever. And it's possible, but more often than not, our emotions get tied into things, and then we say things in a way that are not as conducive to what we were trying to say and to that person that we're saying it to. And it ends up being potentially a positive intent with a negative outcome.
Yeah.
And those are the things that we have to really guard against in life, really prepare ourselves for, so that we can help others. It's taken me, I mean, I've made shitloads of mistakes in my life. You know, from my life personally, as I look back at how I maybe have, you know, I have a hard time when I have dated someone and then didn't feel that it was the right relationship. How do you break up?
Mm.
And I didn't even know what it was called before, but you know, now it's called ghosting. Um, you know, it's like I don't know how to say I don't think that we are a pair, that you know, I don't think.
Like that. You say it like that. You don't ghost people.
Yeah, well, I know that now. Before, that was not really my forte. So you learn things throughout life. And I look back and I'm like, man, I could have done that a whole lot better. But I've learned from that now. And that is the critical thing in life, because now, hopefully, when you experience that, when you reflect on it, when you realize what you did, even though the intent was like not to hurt them, it hurt them. And we do that all the time. We do that as leaders. We do that as parents. We do that as friends. We do that as in life, walking down the street to somebody we don't even know. Oftentimes, just the look that we give them or the way that we respond to something that they say is, in fact, it impacts them.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be aware of that in life and recognize that it's those little things that mean a lot to different people. And
I think that
Brandon, you have the talking stick now.
um
I was thinking there you had the talking dick, but I wasn't sure.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but this episode I haven't really said anything.
Well, say something, sir.
Say something. I'm giving up on you.
I think it needs to be understood, like you said, like it's in the little things and all that. It's the things that we overlook so much. I know, and this isn't tooting my horn or anything, so I don't want it to come across like that, but I do it because I know it makes me feel better. When I'm in public, I hold doors for people. I will purposely go around someone and go, oh, excuse me, and open the door to make sure I do it. With COVID, I'm like, I have to stay 6 feet away from you. I have to do all this other crap. But you don't see smiles. I like I said, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I'm very cute because I have beautiful blue eyes and a great smile with straight teeth. So for me,
He's so humble too. Can't you tell?
My teeth are my best feature. Like, I know that. Like, I have a good ass too, but you don't hear me say that.
That's why you split your pants, right?
Exactly. But like, I was doing my squats.
He misses his mom too.
But like, I think we need to know that like that little thing does make a difference in people's days. I was throughout this movie, you guys connected a lot of things that I was going to connect with it, but like the one that I wanted to go back to was the barbershop. I think they did a great job depicting the barbershop for the 60s, 70s, 60s. Is that what it was? I forget the year, but
I think it's modern times. Wasn't this supposed to be modern times?
Well, I think that is more modern than not. Yeah, I think it's kind of transition, you know, can be applied to just about any time. But
what? She's trying to give me something to say. My thing is, he as a barber, the influence it played in his changing of his thinking and how you don't know how that'll something so big is going to be, to the opposite side of where Brett's sitting. You have when they switched bodies, it gave 22 that new perception of things. And throughout your day, you don't know that those little things might be just enough to lead someone to having a good day, to having something special happen to them, to having them see something in themselves. So seeing that other perception of people while also being able to not want something in return, I think is something that a lot of people don't catch in this, you know? because like they don't know the impact they have.
Well, that's right. And this is, I think, a real important thing about the movie is it's really pointing out that, you know, a lot of people, because of the way movies are, the way that the news is, the way that our parents are, the way that religion is, there's some big picture in life that you have to achieve. And if you don't achieve something big, then you were a failure. And that's bullshit.
Right.
If you looked at those everyday nuggets, those morsels in life, and you took those opportunities to do things like opening a door, especially, you know, and let's go into this color thing a little bit, especially when, you know, a white person does something for a black person that was unexpected, or a black person does something for a white person that was unexpected, or a you know, a Mexican and an Asian or whatever. But oftentimes it's in those transracial things that are unexpected, because there's already this perception in mind as to how people look at you and how people will react to you. And there are people that do that. That's why people think that. But I remember being at a bar a few years ago in Long Beach, and there was this group of Asian people. And hell, I lived in Japan. I lived in Korea. I love the Asian cultures. And they're by themselves, and then I'm literally by myself, because I didn't usually go out to the bars with anybody or go home with anybody for that matter. It was just that I was going out to be able to watch people, to see people. And I ended up getting into a conversation with them, and they were in their 20s. I was in my 50s, and we got in this conversation. They're like, I didn't expect to have this kind of a conversation with, you know, a white older fat guy.
Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh that hard.
You know, that because we got into a conversation where we could talk about whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't think that white people wanted to talk to us or to have us in, you know, in their space. And I was like, wow, you know, and I was thinking to myself, wow, I didn't expect that you would want me in your space with your group and everybody there. And here are these perceptions that we have that are preventing us from connecting in ways that people really want to connect.
Yeah.
Correct.
And this is the small things in life, these small events where you learn something, you pick up on something, you contribute something, they contributed to you. And this is what life is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And perception is frankly my least favorite word in the English language. Interesting being my most favorite word in the English language. But perception is just a
Well,
bitch.
perception is also the most powerful
Oh,
thing
absolutely.
in this world as far as people go, and for that matter, as far as animals go. Animals also take on perceptions
Yeah.
of people, of others, of other animals. You know, some of it's learned, some of it's not, some of it's experience, some of it's genetic or you know, hereditary. And people's perception is their reality.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that their reality is real.
Correct.
An event is an event. The meanings and the perceptions that we place on those events are ours. They're our choice. So what and how we represent and how we talk about an event is coming from our perception, our perspective, not necessarily the reality of the event itself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, you know, a common thing that we talk about in most of our shows, because it is that important that we take control of our perceptions, we take control of the meanings we place on events, we take active control of the words we choose to describe things. Because if you say that this is ripping my soul out, or this is annoying me, has a huge difference on our actions, reactions, and how we interpret and incorporate those into our future actions and words. So choosing the words is extremely important, more important, is more important than the event itself. I mean, there's people that can be side by side, and this is what I say, take twins, identical twins. Well, they're not identical in their experience. Even in the womb, they're not identical. And once they come out into the world, even if they're sleeping side by side, they are not experiencing the world exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
Agree.
And they're starting to build perceptions, and they're starting to build reactions and responses and meanings and so forth. So you can see the same, two people can see the same event. Twins can see the same event and come away with a different meaning of that event because of their prior experiences and the meanings and perceptions that they take based on their history up to that point, even though they both saw it. And even if we see an event from just a slight angle difference, it could be a major difference in how we perceive the event. And you can see that when you watch a football game. If you watch where, they made the call and the umpire is here, and then the field judge is here, or they're here, but one sees the ball touch the ground, the other one, the hand was in the way, they didn't actually see that. So they have a different perception of what actually happened in that play. And both of them are right from the angle that they looked at it. But the reality of what it really was takes some undoing. It takes replay. It takes a third party coming in and saying,
the inevitable conundrum of the 6 and the 9. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think that there's just so much in this movie that relates to our lives today, and especially to, I think, what is happening today in this whole COVID environment, where more people are becoming lost souls because they're not able to pursue what they were pursuing before. They are not able to communicate with the people that they communicated before, or they're not able to communicate in the same way. And as a result, the self-talk starts to build and build and build, and they don't have an outlet. They don't have somebody to bounce it off of. They don't have that support community. They don't have that physical activity that takes them out of that mindset, and they build this shell. Now, I'm not saying that others haven't taken this in another direction and said, wow, guess what? I can't go outside and do this kind of stuff. I'm going to really pursue my passion and learn how to play the piano. Before, I wouldn't do that because I didn't want to stay in because there was all these things to do outside. So I'm not saying that that isn't happening, but I'm saying that I believe more often when we're taken out of, not like gradually moved or choosing to move away from something, but when we're blocked from doing something kind of on the spur of the moment.
Yeah.
The way that we respond oftentimes is only through what we have still available to us, and that's our self-talk, and what we choose to follow when we're bringing the outside world in. When we do our Google searches and those Google searches support whatever we're asking, then we believe the whole world is believing that way, and that's not true. What we see on TV, the whole world is believing that. Bullshit. That's not true. We're biases throughout life. We're getting biases that we bring in. And Joe even had his biases in this movie where, he thought this is what his mother meant when she was pushing him away from following his passion, or what the girl was feeling when she was going to quit the trombone. Those types of things happen.
Well, and there's even a moment in the film when, after the gig, when Dorothea sort of brings him back down to earth, they just had their gig and everybody's sort of running, high. And he asks her, so what are we doing tomorrow night? And she said, well, this was great. I'll meet you back here. And he's like, well, what do you mean? and she tells him that story about the young fish and the old fish.
Yeah.
And I'll let everybody sort of.
That's what she was handing me to read. She thought that's the way I was going.
Well, a little bit, and it's one that I sort of was thinking would be a nice wrapping point for us, because one of the, not that we need to be wrapping, but I'll leave that up to you.
No, you're fine. I have to use the facility, so if we're not wrapping, let me know so I can go.
Well, that's the difference between water and the ocean.
Ooh, it really is.
You have to go to the bathroom bad enough,
then you just pee.
Holding the whole
but unless you're swimming. No, but it really does, because all this talk about you're talking about Netflix and about the media, and I'm just thinking, gosh, let's just ground this. Like, this isn't, there's a lot of, even Joe had his head in the clouds, and I need to achieve and I need to dream. And sometimes when you get your dream, you realize that what you really wanted and what you really needed was right in front of your nose the entire time. Yeah. And for us to appreciate these little things, yes, what we're going through right now sucks. And for us to even plan, for us to feel calm, sometimes what we need is to feel anchored and to have a calming force in our lives. And, what that story, what Dorothea was trying to get across, is that sometimes we need to understand that we just need to, hello, Dory, just need to keep swimming. And because you're already in the ocean, you need to stop looking for the ocean and realize.
Need to read the quote. You need to read the quote, so because we've made a bunch of references, but nobody actually said it.
So he steps out. He steps out. He's on the curb with Dorothea, and she says, "So I heard this story about a fish. Little fish swims up to an older fish and says, 'I'm trying to find this thing called the ocean.' And the ocean," the older fish says, "that's what you're in right now. This," the young fish says, "this is water. I want to find the ocean."
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We look for something. We're constantly looking for something. This is what tends to happen in general. We tend to look for something outside of ourselves. We tend to look for something like we were talking about before, the bigger picture. And it goes back to that old saying of, you can't see the forest through the trees. You can only see the tree in front of you. I'm looking for the forest. I'm in the forest. I'm in the ocean. Let's appreciate the trees. Let's appreciate the water. Let's appreciate what's around us, because that is what you're actually looking for. Mm-hmm. You're just so focused on a part of it that you don't realize that there's a much bigger world around you, and you're in what you're actually looking for. You found it, but you continue your search. And there was something, I was watching some of the after movie, add-ons and things like that. And I don't know if everybody has heard of FOMO, the fear of missing out. That's why you get involved in things. But 22 is actually doing just the opposite. And I never even heard of this. And that is JOMO, the joy of missing out. So she's enjoying the fact that I didn't get to Earth, and I'm not going to Earth, and I don't want to go to Earth. And she's relishing in the fact that she's not doing this. And there's oftentimes that people do that in life as well. Instead of stepping in and participating, they're staying back and basically feeling happy and proud of the fact that they haven't actually lived life. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When you think about it, there's people that do that. Instead of stepping in and living life, instead of stepping up and trying something, they take joy in staying back and saying, I didn't fail. No, you didn't fail because you didn't try.
Correct.
So I think that was really something that hit me that I had never heard before, the JOMO of the joy of missing out, and recognizing that even in my life, I've done that frequently, especially when it came to trying to meet a girl. Rather than being rejected, I would sit back and not talk at all. And then say, well, at least I didn't get rejected, so I did better than I would have tried. So those things are what people do. So regardless of whether you're watching Tony Robbins on stage or Steve Jobs or whatever, I guarantee everybody has done things in life, and we do things at different parts of our life that we have to look back at and say, hey, was that really the best choice? And if not, is there a way that I can lead my life differently now? And when I'm talking to others, is there a way that I can help them to possibly not experience something that I did through me who have already experienced that? And I think that that's, also part of what this whole thing is about with Joe and 22, and kind of going back and forth between the two of them in terms of the experiences that they each had and how they learned from those to get them to where actually both of them wanted to go.
I agree. I think that between what both of you guys have said through the whole movie, because I think you both literally quoted every quote in the movie, and then the add-ons and all that we've had, of just the way our thoughts. I think that this is a good one. This was a fun one. So now it leads us to Brett. What are we doing on Thursday? What are you and I doing?
Well, first of all, we got to talk about what the tool is.
Oh my gosh. Can I go pee? I'm sorry.
Have I been banished now? Am I not invited back?
No.
Get into the tool of what soul is, what Joe is.
We'll wait for Brandon to come back. Go, hurry up.
Okay, we'll edit this part out.
He'll drop to the ocean.
Pardon?
I said add his drop to the ocean. That's what he's got to do.
Yeah, really.
But it was really kind of cool. I took a quote from Kemp Powers. He was such an amazing contributor to this movie, and what he says are so profound. He said, this movie is about what happens when a soul who doesn't want to die finds himself with a soul that doesn't want to live.
Yep.
And you know what? We actually experience that with people in our lives. We have people that don't really want to live. When I say that, it's not that they want to die, but they don't want to learn. In my opinion, if we're not learning every day, we're dying. We need to learn. Growing and learning is living. Hiding and staying out of things is literally dying, from both a figurative and a physiological perspective, because those chemicals and those endorphins and those types of things that come out as we learn things and it sparks something in our mind actually does trigger chemical changes in our body, which are helpful to life. So we need to recognize that and it also goes to choosing who you hang around.
Oh, absolutely. And studies have shown that, travel and experiences, purchases related to / thereof, definitely release more serotonin than, say, a big screen TV. I know you want one, honey, but next.
What?
I was saying that travel purchases as opposed to a big screen TV to fix your vision problems would be a better purchase.
Don't
just
talk
because
to me. I got a 60, a 75, a 50, a 40, two 32-inch monitors in front of me.
Okay, we will talk. That sounds very cool.
Yeah.
Those definitely, those discovery type experiences, they are what make up life. That the world is your playground. I would love to fill up my passport. I think we all have made practices. I definitely can testify to that though some of my excuses definitely fall under the category of, reasons, parental illnesses, things that definitely would tie my rope a little bit closer to home. We all have those for one reason or another. We all can choose to do different things with our lives. However close to home that gets you. You can have your own adventures, whatever that word means to you. We have a girlfriend, you know exactly who I'm talking about, who makes adventure her middle name and will almost pops hives if she doesn't travel at least 3 times a year. And it's just, that's an amazing spirit. And I envy people that don't just have those spirits, but are able to fulfill them. And whether that spirit is opening up a book and traveling into whatever world that is for you, or watching a film like this and discovering all new universes, or getting on an airplane whenever we're able to and traveling to lands undiscovered. Hopefully what this film does do for you is give you that heart beating, tummy, butterfly flapping urge to do so.
Yeah, and for those that don't have the opportunity sometimes to travel as far, to do what you were saying, to get into books, to get into a movie, I get, when I'm watching Harry Potter, I get into the movie, and I learn things from it, I gain things from it, I travel through it.
Mm-hmm.
And those are very important ways that we can learn. And kind of going back now to what was the tool that I chose for this? And it is an obvious one, and yet not so, maybe. I choose the soul, SOLE.
Like a fish.
Be
Like the fish.
grounded. Be grounded. The sole of your shoe, the sole of your foot.
So like a good
Grounded.
pair of boots, when you are in construction, you won't be able to get the electric, you'll be able to keep your feet wet, and the feet are the most important thing because they keep you grounded. So 100%, I like where your head's at on that. That's a tool that people think
or
of proper.
Taking it in a different direction, like
my bad.
Native Americans, like the Asian religions and so forth. Grounding, taking your shoes off, putting your feet on the grass, on the ground, using that to actually literally ground yourself from an electrical perspective, putting our frequencies back into balance with nature, and remaining in the present.
Yep.
Because it is through what we do in the present that creates our future, that creates our legacy. So live in the present, recognize that, yes, we think about the future, we remember the past, don't live in the past, don't fear the future, or don't get anxiety because you're not sure what the future is going to bring. But remember that what we do now, how well we're grounded, how much of the soul that we have here and now on the ground is what really enables us to live. It goes back to something that Roger Hamilton and other of my mentors says, and I've said this before: wealth is what's left when the money is gone. What we have learned, what we have experienced, how we have impacted those around us is the true wealth of life. And we need to, and this is my tagline, live life, love life, and be life. And that is soul. That is soul. That is soul. That is soul.
Yes.
What tool do you think?
What? What tool?
He does the tool, and that way I can remember it. He's the teacher, I'm the student, and every now and then we switch. So I asked you, what tool do you think the movie represents to you?
Oh, I thought that I already did that.
Was soul? The soul?
Yeah, I did the whole little fish thing.
Oh, that's where you went. But how's that fish a tool? I know who's being a tool right now.
You.
I was about to say that, but
I thought you put your lip, and I'm like, I know what he wants to say. I'm like, I know what he wants to say. I know what she's thinking, and the audience listening is like,
well, really, the little fish story is about being grounded.
It is.
It is.
In the here and now. It's about experiencing what is immediately around us and recognizing that we're part of the bigger picture and we affect the bigger picture. But it's all about really recognizing where we are.
appreciating those daily moments, like appreciating that the ocean is the same thing as water.
No, yes, it is. But it's realizing that you're in the environment, not actually, you're of the environment, not just in the environment.
I think he just said the same thing as me.
Well, life, if how I'm trying to remember, life is not done to us, life is done for us.
Right.
So live life.
Yes.
I love it. So who wants to take us out? Rock, paper, scissors. Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. Shoot. You got rock. Sarah has rock, and I have paper. So I cover her. Brett, it cuts me. Sarah is beating us all. So Sarah, you lost. This is one square at a time. Honest conversation that we have to bring a leadership perspective from the King's perception for his team. One square at a time.
I think he means queen.
Well,
nope, I mean the King, because
squares. See, that's the value of a queen, is a queen can move many squares in any direction. A king actually doesn't have the same power, can only move one square at a time. So we have to think about that even more than maybe the queen. Unless
you're playing the Queen's Gambit.
Well, that could be too. I mean, I appreciate both sides of the coin. So,
but correct. But it's one square at a time, where you can only move one square at a time. So you have to build your team around you, and knowing how to
tools and build your experiences and yourself, because it is the role of the king and the queen to lead. And the first, person, or the first team that we have to lead is me, myself, and I. Then we can help to lead each other.
I love it. I am Brandon Croucher, CEO, Delight Cafe, Delight Digital Network, Fresh Brewed Teas, and I could keep going on, but there's already enough letters.
I'm Sera Nelson from Wags for Kids.
And I'm Brett Gordon from Businesses Are People Too, working with leaders, individuals, entrepreneurs, and teams to build a better you.
I love it.
Jazz hands.
I love it. Jazz
hands.
All right. Take care.
Hey, Brent, will you do me a favor and send me? I've been downloading these, but I went in today and it didn't look like there were anything there. Can you reshare the file that is with it? I'm sure they're there on your end. My computer did an update yesterday, and every now and then it does this. So you just might need to reshare it to me.
Okay. Yeah.
Is that cool? Like your face changed there.
No, absolutely. I mean, I was having challenges trying to get my Fiverr account today. So I was like, what the hell? I did all this work. Now I can't find it. And then I found it again. So
I didn't know you were on Grindr.
Not Grindr, Fiverr.
Did you hear
I love Fiverr.
Did you hear the tone change and everything?
I was like, how'd you know I was on Grindr? No, Fiverr.
He was gonna go looking for you. We're in an open relationship now, and we've been asking which one of us is allowed to date you.
Well, believe me, that was my first marriage and didn't work out so well.
Wait, me or him was your first marriage?
Neither.
No, neither. I was married once, long time ago.
I was almost married once, a long time ago.
That was a dig on me. We can hit the end button now. I'm gonna go eat dinner and make sure my email's sent. Brett, have you signed up to be? Are you a subscriber at delightcafe.com?
Yeah, I should be.
So you should got a new email. You should check it out.
All right, I'll definitely take a look at that, and then
you might just be in it.
Oh, really? Okay, I will definitely check it out. And for the next, do we want to do something Friday?
Yes, you and I are. Because we have to do. It's just because I love you.
It's okay. It's a porn flick. I get it. What's the homework?
So Friday we need to do a villain, because we've done because this one it's not a hero, I would say. This one was more of a man, because
I
like
just like movie homework. Tell me what movie.
I think the key is we need to look at it more as a superpower, as a hero,
yeah,
and the superpower is the tool, is like the soul, is like ground.
I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. And then we also need to do Wreck-It Ralph. And if we do Wreck-It Ralph, Joe's going to have to participate.
He'll participate Friday. I'll send him a text. Do you want to actually? Do you have his email still? joe.holderith@delightcafe.com. Put that on there and send him an email saying Wreck-It Ralph discussion, and that way he just gets invited into the thing on Friday.
What time do you want to do it on Friday? Later in the afternoon, like we were originally kind of thinking, or
Like 3:30ish? Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Okay.
Perfect. And I'll make sure I watch it again because I like that movie. I've seen it twice, so that's one of the few movies I watch again.
2 more times than I've seen it, so I'm going to have to go and watch it and learn it and all that.
It's a good one. It's a good one. That's a good one, and that'll be Friday, and we'll go from. Oh, Sarah, what's our next one that the three of us are watching? Then is it Inside Out?
Do I pick? I figured somebody else had to pick the next time.
Oh, Joe did pick for Friday, so go ahead, Brett. Your pick this time for next Monday.
Damn. I was thinking of something. Then I honestly have forgotten what I was thinking about doing. I'll have to send you an email.
All right.
I like movie homework. Make it interesting.
Will do.
Here's the challenge. Make it something I haven't seen before.
Well, I don't know, because it sounds like you and I have seen a lot of the same stuff.
I'm guessing we have, which is why that's the challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, then I guess it does go to like Debbie Does Dallas or something.
I think I've seen that one.
So have you seen, I know you guys are going to both say yes to this, but like,
Yes.
I was going to go with something a little like classic-y. Remember the Titans to the Goonies to something like, and Goonies I only would say because they just had their reunion, to something even along the lines of maybe